Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. Joining me tonight as guest curators are Dan and Manny from the Nostalgia Test podcast. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on My Weekly Mixtape.
Oh, Brian, thank you so much for having us. It's been a while.
Yeah. Been a minute, so I'm excited.
I am too. We've talked together on Playlist Wars. I've guested on the Nostalgia Test before.
Yes.
I'm excited to go down that nostalgia road. But before we do that, I get to ask you each my first timers question. And Dan, we'll start with you. What does the word mixtape mean to you?
Oh, it's fun because a mixtape, it reminds me of my childhood of putting together the best songs or the songs that I love the most that I want to share with someone else, right? And that ability to do that was so fun because you could curate a whole experience. And then you got to like put in like little jokes or maybe inside jokes as well inside the mixtape. So I loved it. It was like creating a collage for someone else. And it was just so fun to do.
Manny, same question to you.
So it makes me think about my wife because when we first started dating, she made me a couple of mixtapes, but it was mixed CDs at the time. CD-ROM was big. You could get it printed. Like you even print out like your whole track list. And she had like, it was basically her love notes to me. So I had like 3 or 4 of them. So anytime I think mixtape, there's this one specific mixtape that she made for me that always like pops in my head. It's just a great time because like I have an ADHD brain. So I'm like all over the place. So a mixtape means perfect because it could go from like this gloomy song to this like EDM to some just like Bon Jovi song. Like what is happening? And it's just awesome. So I love it. I love it.
Well, tonight, in a very meta coincidence, the three of us, like I said, are curating a playlist filled with the most nostalgic songs that music has to offer. Now, we're not talking about the songs that each of the three of us are personally nostalgic for. We're talking about songs that are specifically written about being nostalgic for something. It could be times past, an old relationship, or something as simple as a photograph. So with 125 plus episodes of nostalgic discussions on the Nostalgia Test, Dan, what were you looking to bring to the table with your song choices tonight?
Yeah, this was interesting because I was thinking about also when we did an episode with someone, Georg Charman, who is this guy, a scholar from Vienna, and something he said on our episode 81 was like, the idea of like one part of nostalgia is romanticization, and then there's also some like melancholy to it, and also something about, he said, like shared experience. So I'm trying, like when I was choosing the songs, I was like, which songs create an experience that can be shared amongst a bunch of people, even if it's like, and the other thing about it too is like, these don't also have to be great songs. That was something we talked about with him too, is like something nostalgic doesn't necessarily have to be amazing. It does that thing that creates the experience of shared. So I was like, what songs can I put on here that create a shared experience between us three and then outwardly even more people?
Manny?
It's funny because of course, I went to like songs that make me feel nostalgic, but then like the fact that this is also meta to the point where it's talking about it, I found it interesting that I wanted to bring songs that no matter what decade you were listening to this, even if they weren't talking about what your high school was like or what your past was like, you could understand the storytelling that was going on and then relate it to you. Like in my brain, there's certain songs here I don't want to say right away that I'm like, yeah, I didn't grow up that way, but like,
yeah,
there was this that I did that was kind of like that. So you live in that song, but in your own way. And the songs make you do that, even though you didn't, maybe a song was written so long ago, it doesn't matter. So I thought that's what I wanted to bring to the table.
And for mine, I went with 3 different things. 1, trying to invoke that, yeah, things have really changed since back then. 2, the song's nostalgic references hit close to home for me personally, where a song actually is about nostalgia, but something that I personally relate to. Or 3, the song is just friggin' awesome and happens to fit the theme. So I think with the bank of songs I choose, I'm hitting on all 3. So with that said, let's get down to business. Tonight, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Dan, Manny, and I will be curating the ultimate nostalgia mixtape, and we'll use the old cassette deck approach. But since I have two guests this evening, the format will be slightly altered from the usual. Tonight, Dan will begin side A with his first song choice, and then we'll roundtable the panel until we've mapped out 10 songs for side A. We'll then give our mixtape a proverbial flip, and we'll map out side B, only this time Manny will kick off the roundtable discussions. Our overall goal for this episode is to craft the best nostalgia mixtape possible through our 21 songs, or 7 song choices each. At the end of the show, you can take our conversation to the next level by visiting the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com to give our final mixtape a listen via the embedded playlist. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. There you can enjoy ad-free episodes of the show, become a future guest, and so much more, such as chiming in on episode topics like this one, which a few of the Patreon mixtapers have done, and I'd like to give a quick shout out to a few of those. Sean Goff is getting nostalgic over his pick, Bon Jovi's Never Say Goodbye, saying it brings back great memories from his high school years. And speaking of memories, Tom Hutchinson chimed in with Weezer's Memories, which features the cast of Jackass, both on backing gang vocals as well as in the video, saying that the song will always be his favorite Weezer song and how it holds a special place, as Ryan Dunn passed shortly after the song came out. Chad Lamassa chimed in with the St. John's Josephine, as well as the Revivalists' Keep Going. Mike Daly said Hold On by Triumph might fit well into tonight's discussion. Seeker said Yesterday by Guns N' Roses was the first song that came to his mind. Philip Bergman chimed in with a number of songs, including Weird Al's Good Old Days, and since he was the guest on episode 56, the Ultimate Weird Al playlist, I kind of would have been shocked if he didn't include that one. But along with that, he also chimed in with Leslie Gore's The Old Crowd, Elvis Presley's Memories, Little Caesar and the Romans, Those Oldies But Goodies, and Stevie Wonder's I Wish, among others, saying that while it's not the most rockin' playlist, nostalgia often has a calming effect at times, so it seemed appropriate. And finally, Brandon from Virginia chimed in with Stevie Wonder as well, only he went with Sir Duke, along with both Blues Traveler and From Good Homes back in the day, which, while they're both the same song title, they're completely different tunes. Remember, if you want to be part of future episode chime-ins, become a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. So Dan, I'm officially pressing the record button on our mixtape and turning the mic over to you. What song have you chose to get that nostalgic vibe churning for us this evening?
All right, so the first song that I chose, it comes off the 2006 My Chemical Romance album, The Black Parade. Welcome to the Black Parade.
Nice.
This song is the song that I came across. Like, I didn't listen to My Chemical Romance, but this song always came up on mixes on Spotify when I was listening to certain bands, and I just got so attached to it. And it's that opening note calls out to you, but the story in it is what the nostalgic part of it for me. And the idea that this song starts with a story about a guy reminiscing, going to this parade with his father, and like that idea really called out to me, and I feel like calls out to a lot of people in terms of the shared experience of like going somewhere with a parent, or reminiscing on going to a thing maybe traditionally with a parent, and having conversations and reminiscing back on really important conversations. And it also has that really rocking sound that I feel like nostalgic rock songs have. They're like anthemic in a way where like you feel like you're with a group listening to it. So this is, yeah, the beginning. Welcome to the Black Parade, My Chemical Romance.
I like this song a lot. I actually did listen to My Chemical Romance. This is one of my favorite songs of them. I rock out to this song like constantly when I'm brewing. The beginning of this is phenomenal. I agree with Dan. Like, it brings me back to when I used to go to like punk shows and emo shows, but it also like it does make me feel like energized when I'm listening to this. Like no need for coffee, but this one. And I just feel like I'm at a show every time. So I love it.
When I was a young boy, my father took me into the city to see a marching band. Reached number 9 on the US Billboard Hot 100, number 32 on the Canadian Hot 100, as well as number 1 on the UK singles and rock and metal chart. It also held that coveted number 1 spot in Venezuela and Scotland. Rolling Stone also included it in its 100 best songs of 2006. This is one of those songs that if I was ever on Name That Tune, I could name it in one note. That first piano note, I already know exactly what song it is. You know, when you hear that piano, you're about to go on a musical adventure. And this is by far my favorite My Chemical Romance album. And actually song as I think about it too. So I love the way you're starting with this. Awesome way to kick things off tonight. Manny, we are now going to you for track 2.
Well, the one I chose was When We Were Young by The Killers. I mean, this whole thing just screams nostalgia. It puts me into this like different mode of like, for some reason, I take it as like, I don't want to say my grandfather, but like I worked with my grandfather when I was young. And like, there's something about this song, just like when gentlemen were gentlemen. I don't know how to say this. Just looking up to somebody and listening to all their wisdom and learning from them. And like, also like feeling like I could conquer the world when I was a kid. And like, just remember how things were just, people were more respectful to people and stuff. That's just kind of how it makes me feel. And I just love the Killers. So like, this is like one of my favorite songs that they play.
You know, I'm looking at the lyrics and it makes me think, especially in that song, they say, you know, Brandon Flowers says like, and sometimes you close your eyes and you see the place where you used to live when you were young. And that really screams out that nostalgic experience of listening to a song and hearing a lyric and it bringing you to that space, like giving you that warm nostalgic feeling of remembering maybe where you grew up. And as I've grown up and lived in different places, like I can see each place that I've lived at, and then also places that like my parents lived at. And there's a photograph of a house my mom grew up in South Ozone Park, and it's like a house that doesn't look like any other house on the block, and it's just so amazing looking and beautiful. But you know, when I see it, I get nostalgic for even just being inside that house. So, and also the Killers are, to me, taking the torch from Bruce Springsteen and writing those long anthemic songs that are nostalgic and telling those long stories. So it's a great pick.
And sometimes you close your eyes and see the place where you used to live when you were young. From 2006's Sam's Town, reached number 14 on the US Billboard Hot 100, number 5 on the Canadian Singles Chart, and number 2 on the UK Singles Chart. It was also a top 10 hit in Australia, Europe, Ireland, and Scotland. And in 2009, UK radio station XFM ranked the song number 37 on their 100 greatest songs of all time. Cool way to start tonight because we went with 2 songs from the 2000s. And I know a lot of people talk about how 80s music had a sound and how 90s music had a sound. But when you got to the 2000s, after nu metal and all of that kind of died down, I feel like music kind of went off in many different directions, and it's harder to define the 2000s as a musical sound. But when you bring up bands like My Chemical Romance and The Killers, there was a musical sound in the 2000s. And I think that's what I'm going to tap into for my first pick of the night, which will be track 3. And I should probably start by saying that with my pick, all 3 songs are going to be from the 2000s. So if I'm looking at it from where I sit at age 46 right now, the nostalgia arrows pointing directly at you, 1980s and 1990s. Maybe we're showing our age here. Maybe we're wearing it on our sleeves, but I'm going to go with a song that will make my wife cringe and will probably make a lot of listeners cringe. and I don't care. And I'm going to defend this one. And there's going to be people that are going to be screaming at the top of their lungs, but I teased it at the top of the show, and I'm just going to dive right into the deep end. From 2005's All the Right Reasons, we're going with Canada's finest, at least in the 2000s, Nickelback and Photograph. Reached number 2 on the US Billboard Hot 100, number 3 in Australia, number 1 on Canada's Hot AC Top 30, number 1 on the UK Rock and Metal chart, and was a top 10 hit in Belgium, the Netherlands, and New Zealand. The song is 2 times platinum in the US, platinum in Canada, and gold in both Australia and the UK. So everyone who says they hate the song, maybe they do, but they're listening to it. And I get it. The lyric, look at this photograph, every time I do it makes me laugh. That's the one that everyone's mind is going to go to because it created, let's be honest, one of the greatest memes of all time. And I'm very thankful for that. But if you dive into the song, and this is where I'm going to get serious for a second, the lyrics, we used to listen to the radio and sing along with every song we know. We said someday we'd find out how it feels to sing to more than just the steering wheel. As a guy who played in bands from high school and still currently plays in bands, those lyrics actually hit me in the feels a little bit. Yeah, I'm talking about Nickelback, but those lyrics for any musician, we've all been there. You all dream about what if we were one of those bands. And as much as everyone hates them, check out the 2023 documentary, Hate to Love Nickelback. It might give you a new perspective on them.
So it is nostalgic. I mean, there's no doubt about it. This is a song that at its core, it is nostalgia. I mean, the line, remember the old arcade, blew every dollar that we ever made. I mean, that is something, especially if you grew up with arcades and going to classic arcades, not like the new arcade where like you pay one price and you could play everything, where like you are actually having to continually get quarters and wait online and, you know, sit there and watch one person like dominate that whole thing. It brings you into those moments. And without talking about Nickelback, which doesn't matter because it's like, it is about the nostalgia part. Nickelback is also like, just even saying like they also are nostalgic at this point. Like that sound that they created is nostalgic. So everything about it is nostalgic, whether you like Nickelback or not. It is an amazing pick. And this is actually the first time I listened to the whole song all the way through. And I was like, okay, okay.
This is this song's hilarious. When it comes on, I want to hate this song. I want to hate it so bad because it just has become just like, look at this photograph. And I remember that. But the lyrics are, you can't hide away from these lyrics. Like everything about it makes me think about, first of all, time when you would look at a photograph, you're not looking at your phone to see the past and your eyes are so red. Remember when you used to use the flash and there was no way to take the red out? You don't really get that now because your phone is auto-correcting right away. So all of that just brings me back. And then, like, you know, he talks about sneaking out of his school and how the second floor is hard to do and that he actually broke in a couple of times, but only the criminal record shows that it's twice. Like, it is such a great storytelling song that it's so hard for me to, like, be like, I kind of, like, low-key really like this song because it does get me in all the feels. I have to give it that at least this song, it deserves where it got placed because it probably got everybody's feels and that's why it got there. So
yeah.
All right, Dan, we're back to you now for track 4. Where do we go from Nickelback?
So this is funny because we've been talking about nostalgia and like it being having an 80s sound or a 90s sound. And I just turned 42, but like the song I'm about to give is from 2016 and it's from the California Deluxe edition of the Blink-182 album, California, and it's called Parking Lot. And it is also from the era of Blink-182 when Alkaline Trio frontman Matt Skiba was in the band. It's an interesting 2-album space of time for Blink-182. I actually love their albums actually during this period as well. I think the songwriting was amazing. And this song just gets me every time I hear it. If you've ever went to shows, traveled on the train, pre-gamed in that way, and had a group of friends that just loved going to concerts, but also lived in the suburbs. And this is also the core part of it. This song is going to make you feel all the nostalgic feelings and all the memories coming back. I mean, right when it's like starts with Matt's voice, which is a great voice. Remember the days we would drink on the train on our way to the show, Chicago. And I'm just like immediately thinking of all the shows I went to, taking the Long Island Railroad into Manhattan, drinking Southern Comfort like a degenerate, going to a show, and then like having to take that train home. But it is such an interesting thing, is that idea that living so far but so close to a city and being in the suburbs, being this weird like forgotten population that also loves that, being in those spaces. So I love this song. I play this song so much.
I don't want to constantly repeat Dan, but we grew up together. This is the reason why we have a podcast together. And it did remind me of that, Dan. Like going, we were still in high school, even though you weren't supposed to be drinking. That was the time you were drinking to go to the shows that, weren't like Mineola did have a really good like punk, more emo scene.
Yeah.
And we had like Deja was a place to go. But most of the time we were going in the city. And that was the time when we were doing whatever. There was no parents around. We had no cell phones then. So it was like maybe we had a beeper, or one of us, two of us maybe had it. But it totally brings me there. Such a great song. Just makes me feel so good.
Underneath fluorescent lights, we'll waste the best nights of our lives. F this place. Let's put up a parking lot. Reached number 34 on the Billboard US Hot Rock and Alternative Songs chart. Dan, I'm with you. I might catch some flack for this as well, but I agree. I think California is an incredible Blink-182 record. Even though Tom's not on it, Matt did a bang-up job, both vocally and on guitar. And this song, I think, along with Bored to Death, are two standout tracks that, at least in the case of Bored to Death, Blink is continuing to play now with Tom back in the band. So they're recognizing that these songs are part of Blink's entire kind of catalog. So I love seeing that the Skiba era is being recognized with the reunion happening. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Manny, we're back to you now for track 5.
Okay. Now, if you know me, you know I'm a big Macklemore fan. I love his lyrics. I chose Good Old Days. Featuring Kesha. This song is everything great about, like, obviously the good old days. It's a lyric in many songs. They talk about how these are the good old days. Though, like they didn't know it was the good old days. The whole song is about them going to like shows, playing garages and all that stuff, and just getting in a van and going, and didn't realize like those were the journey to, and that was the good old days, that was going to be what they were going to think about. And like, even though they're rock stars now, those times were like what made the greatest memories. And that, just listening to the way Kesha says, these are the good old days, forget about even if you're not in a band, it makes me think about just like the friends that you had from right after high school, during college, right before you had to become an adult. And everything you did was just such a good time. Like, we didn't really have that many responsibilities. We didn't have that many bills. And you were just in it. Everybody would just wake up. What are we doing today? And you were in the moment. And just thinking about that, like when I'm so stressed out and bills to pay and all these other things, I'm like, man, we didn't even know what we had. And I even say it to like my nieces and nephews now. I'm like, don't rush this. Even if you have a crappy day, or you guys were just hanging out in the backyard, you didn't do anything. You just hung out. Those are going to be the best memories you've ever had, because to get together with anybody now, you need to get put on your freaking iCalendar, because there's just so many things that come up. There's so many things to do. And like, you won't know that they're the good old days until it's gone. And like, you just got to sit and appreciate it. It gets me all the time. I'm like choke up thinking about it. So.
Okay. So I was listening to this and I was thinking, it was like making me cry as I was walking to this workshop I was going to, because it was making me think like, you're right, Manny, like we didn't know how good we had it, but also like having those memories is so important because when we are struggling, that's when nostalgia kind of comes in. It's just like we got through even things then, but we also like look at everything we've already done, right? Sometimes we feel like we haven't done anything. I was like crying just thinking about everything I've done, the people I've met in my life and the love I have in my life. I was like, oh my God, this song is doing all that. And it was quite a listening experience.
Wish I would have gotten out of my shell. Wish I put the bottle back on that shelf. Wish I wouldn't have worried about what other people thought and felt comfortable in myself.
Ugh.
Talk about a verse that hits you like that. Spoke to me. I mean, to me, I think Macklemore and I think thrift shop. And when he hit me with that verse, I'm like, oh my God, am I catching the feels from Macklemore here? But from 2017's Gemini, the song reached number 48 on the Billboard US Hot 100. Surprised it wasn't a top 40 hit. Hit number 78 in the UK. So neither place it was a top 40 hit. However, it was a top 40 hit, hitting number 40 on the Canadian Hot 100, as well as cracking the top 40 all over the world, including New Zealand, Belgium, Austria, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Ecuador, Hungary, Switzerland, and Ireland. This is a worldwide hit. And you want to know where its highest worldwide chart position was? Number 8 in Australia.
Wow.
Of all the places.
Of all the places, I thought you were going to say Ireland.
No, Australia, the highest chart position for good old days. This song, it really hit me. I was not the biggest Macklemore fan outside of Thrift Shop. And hearing this song for the first time, I'm going, man, this guy knows how to hit you in the feels. And I think that's what I'm going to use to pivot off of, because we went from rock and now we're into hip hop land. And if we're going nostalgic and we're going with hip hop, I'm going to spoil the next song with 2 words. Drums, please. From 1991's Home Base, we're going with DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Yes, Will Smith. Summertime. Reached number 4 on the Billboard US Hot 100, their highest charting single ever. Number 29 on Canada's top singles chart, and number 8 on the UK singles chart. It also won a Grammy Award for Best Rap Performance by a Duo or Group. Now, I talked about this song on episode 75, the Ultimate Summer Vibes playlist with DT from Space Castle. And man, I have to revisit these lyrics that, for my age at 46, just immediately I am back in high school. When I think of the summers of the past, adjust the bass and let the Alpine blast. Pop in my CD and let it run a rhyme, and put your car on cruise and lay back, because this is summertime. Now, hell, during episode 75, I actually say in the episode that this song will make my list for the Ultimate Nostalgia playlist, and I knew I was going to use it tonight. I just didn't know where, but thanks to you, Manny, for bringing Macklemore into the discussion. I don't even have to try to wedge a square into a circle here. It's the perfect segue. Summertime.
Oh man, listening to that song again was like summer songs. Just like that's the thing when I hear this too. It reminds me of like how music and summer were so connected that like nowadays, yes, everyone's like, what's the song of the summer? But it's like, then it was like, what are the songs of the summer? It was like a whole event. Like you had summertime, like with Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff. And like for us, it was like, anytime it comes to summer, I'm throwing Sublime on again. I'm doing all these things. So like, it's not just this single song of the summer. It's like, what kind of like curation of summer can I do with music? And this song always has to be on it.
Oh, yes. I mean, I love this choice. Thanks, Brian. This is an amazing choice. From the beginning, you transform. I want to put flip-flops on. I want to just be at the beach, by the dock, drinking a cocktail, or just like hanging out. Like even again, when this song came out, we were in high school, or maybe even middle school at the time. I'm 43, so I'm just I can't do the math that fast, but it was a jam. And you were going to be listening to this from Memorial Day all the way to Labor Day. And like, it was playing everywhere. C100, Hot 97, like no one didn't have this on. And that, like you said, Dan, it does, and it even brings me back. The greatest thing is that this is always on. Like, this is like, you know how people like make Christmas songs and they're like, oh, I could live off of just that because it's being played all the time. This is like that song. Like
Yeah.
it will not be played. Like who's not going to play this? Like nostalgically, ironically, it gets put on now even with social media. It's a sound bite that you put on when you want to like just show that it's summertime. Like it is such a great banger. Love this thing. Could listen to it all day.
Well, now, Dan, we're back to you for track 7. Where do we go from here?
So I feel like we are making pivots like every 3 songs. Like I had to throw something on there, and I had a bunch of songs in my head that I was like, I need to get on there. And I was like, you know what? This one won it out. And That's What Friends Are For. Like Dionne Warwick, Elton John, Gladys Knight, Stevie Wonder, written by Burt Bacharach and Carol Bayer Sager. And it's almost like people don't have to say anything about why this is here. And especially me, but I'm like, this is a song you put on and it's just like, sit back, let your whole life come be flashed right in front of you and all the amazing moments. That's what this song does. And it gave me all the nostalgia feeling, all of them. It reminded me of all the graduations that I've heard this at, from 5th grade on. Like they were just like doing that to us. It was like crying. But also like the friends that I've had, and like I moved several times, and then like the friends I had in Colorado, like when I would do my MFA there, and like, then I haven't seen them since. But like we kind of keep in touch. And that's that idea. It's like friends are for a lot of different things when like you need them, but also in different moments of your life. And I feel like this song really puts it out there. And plus, I mean, who's gonna hate like Dionne Warwick, Elton John, Gladys Knight, Stevie Wonder? You put them all on a track and just magic happens. It's like let them sing the phone book, just like let James Earl Jones, rest in peace, read the phone book. It doesn't matter. It's gonna be a banger. It's gonna be amazing. But yeah, love this song. All the nostalgia feels.
Okay, Dan, you took me here with this one. I used to work for a DJ company, and I used to go to bar mitzvahs and sweet 16s. This is how you ended a bar mitzvah and sweet 16 all the time, and everybody circled up, and you sung it. This is another one where it's like every single lyric in here gets you. It makes you think about anybody who's that close to you. You might not be talking to them for like 10 years, and you still are like, yeah, like that is what friends are for. Like, especially when the lyric is like, I'm glad that I got the chance to say that I believe I love you. And if I should ever go away, just close your eyes and try to think about this moment, these times. And that's what friends are for. There's nothing more I could say. Like I was like, really? This is where we went from Jazzy Jeff? And then like, we're like, oh, this, like, let's slow down, sit back and think about it. And there are a group of friends that we have that I may not see for years, but I know if I pick up the call right now, they'll pick up, and that's what they're for.
And Dan, like you, I'm 99.9999999% certain I sang this at several grammar school chorus concerts growing up, because as soon as you said the song title, my brain went, keep smiling, keep shining, knowing you can always count on me. For sure. Yeah, everybody's singing along right now. If Jay Sweet and I were to ever do a volume 2 to episode 33, wait, that's a cover song playlist, this song is a perfect candidate because Rod Stewart originally recorded this in 1982 for the Night Shift soundtrack.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
This is a cover song.
My mind. Wow.
Nobody's talking about Rod Stewart's version because Dionne Warwick made it her own. But man, you got to give Rod some love here. You got to give Rod some love.
Yeah. All right. Love to Rod Stewart.
Yeah.
This version reached #1 on the Billboard US Hot 100 and was the #1 single in the US for all of 1986. It also reached #1 in Australia and Canada and won the Grammy Awards for Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals, as well as Song of the Year, because of course it did. Manny, from that, where do you go for track 8?
Okay, so I'm going to Ed Sheeran's Castle on the Hill. There's a lot behind this one. First of all, me and my wife went to Ireland and we were chasing castles and we listened to this like on repeat. But just listen to like even the lyrics. He's again talking about old friends. growing up, breaking his leg, getting in fights with brothers and sisters. Like there's this whole thing. Why I chose all these songs is like it didn't matter that I wasn't in Ireland and I don't chase castles and there's no castle on the hill. But I do remember me and my twin sister playing hide go seek, and I didn't break my leg, but I jumped out of a hamper and fell and cracked my skull and have a scar from it. So like it just brings back those like even like memories of just like the kids we were talking about that's what friends for on that one. Even go younger and think about the friends you had when you were like 6, 7, and 8. Maybe you don't remember specific conversations, but you remember like things you did, parties you might have got at a pool, or something cool that happened, like a race that you might have had on the block with your bicycle and stuff. So great lyrics on this one. Ed Sheeran always killing it.
I mean, this is the thing. A great song about nostalgia, or a great song that gives you those nostalgic feels, that, those shared experiences, is a song like this where it's just storytelling. Everything is just a lot, like beautiful stories and recollections and memories. And yeah, like Manny said, like I remember breaking my heel, which is the weirdest thing to break, and like being on crutches for like all of the summer after 5th grade, and like then working as a custodian and like almost breaking my ankle and being in crutches for the rest of that summer, and then going upstate to our friend Dave's house. Shouldn't have done that, and like been playing beer pong on crutches, like brah. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just, it gives you all those things where you're being shown your memories by someone else's lyrics, and it's kind of interesting to kind of have those two things happen at the same time, and this song was doing that really well. And it's just a fun type of, like, I don't know, like it's not even like a rock song as much as like it's almost like folksy in a way, and I love that type of feel.
Well, Dan, you should reach out to DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince and have them write an extra verse for summertime about broken ankles. I think
Yeah.
Found my heart and broke it here, just like Dan's ankle. Made friends and lost them through the years. And I've not seen the roaring fields in so long. I know I've grown, but I can't wait to go home. From 2017's Divide, reached number 6 on the Billboard US Hot 100, number 2 on the UK singles chart, the Canadian Hot 100, and the Australia ARIA charts. It also topped the charts in Iceland, Israel, and Scotland, and is currently 4 times platinum in the US, 6 times platinum in the UK, 9 times platinum in Australia, and diamond in Canada. This song also made music history, as it was the first time 2 songs by the same artist debuted on the Billboard US Hot 100 in the top 10 in the same week, as it debuted at number 6, like I said, with Shape of You debuting at number 1. Now, the story behind Ed Sheeran's Castle on the Hill, there's a little bit of sadness to it, a little melancholy. Made friends and lost them through the years. And that's what I'm going to go with to kind of pivot into the next song, but I'm going to make it I'm going to change because this, you said, is a little folky. I'm going to take this and go back into the pop punk side of thing, maybe with a little splash of emo. I mean, there is a violin in the song. And I'm going to go with the title track from Yellow Card's 2003 album, Ocean Avenue. This one hit number 37 on the Billboard US Hot 100, which actually surprised me. I did not know that Yellow Card had a top 40 hit. It reached number 61 in Australia, number 29 on Canada's CHR Pop Top 30, and number 65 on the UK singles chart. Variety magazine included it in its list of 26 best emo songs of all time. Billboard included it on their list of 100 greatest choruses of the 21st century, and Spin included it in both their list of the 21 best pop punk choruses of the 21st century and the 50 best alt-rock love songs. Now, lyrically, there's a place off Ocean Avenue where I used to sit and talk with you. We were both 16 and it felt so right, sleeping all day, staying up all night. This is the pop punk emo version of Summer Nights from Greece. And I will be hearing nothing else on that one.
So yeah, like these lyrics are interesting, like, because there's a friend that Manny and I have that we used to party at his house all the time. And I would say like lots of time was spent at this house. And when I see these lyrics, when I hear the song, it reminds me of that, not so much like a singular person, but like to me, like it brought me to that nostalgic place of a singular place and a singular moment, right? And there's several of them too. Like that is one of them where it's just like we used to do that. You used to hang out and party in this place, and we all became really close at that one point, right? Like, and then all of a sudden, we've dispersed all over the country, friendships have ended, things like that. So it definitely like brings us to a moment where there was one time where we were all together all the time. And also like it reminded me also right now too, like there's a where I did my MFA in Boulder at Naropa University at the Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics. They're getting ready to like knock down the whole main campus by the selling it by 2026. So a place that meant so much to me. I met some amazing friends. Met my wife for the first time in front of the main building. And like from that point on, like that was how we met. And it means so much to me. And it's going to be gone in like 2 years. And so it's really interesting to think as I grow older, the things that I remember, the people I know are like going to fade and not going to be there. But nostalgia keeps it alive because some moments like this, like a piece of music can just like bring it back like out of nowhere. So I thought it was really amazing.
Staying up all night. Oh, it's like going in my head. This is a great song. Always, there's obviously Yellow Card for some reason reminds me of not some reason. This is a reason for it. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Just because that's like one of the best like soundtracks ever. The first one, I would argue.
No need to argue that one. Episode 65, the Ultimate Tony Hawk Pro Skater Soundtracks playlist dedicated to all of the amazing Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtracks. So no argument here.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Dan. This is another one where it's like that moment in time where you had no responsibilities and you could sleep all day and stay up all night, especially like high school love too, like that young love where it's like you didn't want to leave. You didn't want to say goodbye. You stayed up. You watched the sunrise. Like, when was the last time you watched the sunrise? Unless like, because you got to get up to go to work or your dog wakes you up or, whatever. But where you actually were like, yo, we've been up all night. We might as well not go to bed. And we're just going to go watch the sunrise. And especially on Long Island, we'd be like, let's go drive to Jones Beach and go watch. Or let's go to Point Lookout. There's a couple months ago, actually, my younger niece, her and her boyfriend were like, I'm like, what are you guys doing tonight? She's like, oh, we're going to go watch the sunrise. And I was like, oh, I look at my wife. I was like, remember when we used to do that? It's just like life gets in the way. And this song just is just like, so like, keeps me young. I love it. I love it.
All right, Dan, you kicked off side A, but the way this episode works, you get to close it out as well. So what are we closing out side A with?
Okay. I love this song. I don't care what anyone says. And truthfully, it is one of the most covered songs too. And we'll talk about how many times this song was covered by so many people. And it's Rainbow Connection off the Muppet movie original soundtrack sung by Kermit the Frog. And it is a great song. And in terms of nostalgia, right away, the first verse where it's like, why are there so many songs about rainbows and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. And I'm like, this song is just about, for me, when I hear it, the nostalgia of not just childhood, but hyper childhood imagination that everything is possible. That like, what's on the other side of that rainbow. When you're a kid, you're told it's gold. On the other side of the rainbow is a pot of gold. When you become an adult, you look at it, it's like, yeah, it's just, cool rainbow, whatever. What do I got to do? And then like you're walking past it. So like, it's interesting for me when I listen to this song, it makes me come back to that nostalgic feeling of like anything my imagination is thinking about, I can create. And like that nostalgia of that sort of invincibility of my imagination is something I want to remind myself of. And this song does that. I love this song. And just real quick, this song was covered by, and there's a whole list of people. It was covered by Gwen Stefani, the singer to My Morning Jacket, Lisa Loeb, Maddie Pope, Casey Musgraves and Willie Nelson, Barbara Streisand, Vonda Shepard, Less Than Jake Manny. They covered it. Kenny Loggins. I mean, it goes on. The Carpenters, everyone. This is one of those songs that, like, I think really impacts a lot of people.
You were bringing back the childhood imagination, and the fact that Kermit the Frog is singing it really definitely that voice. You can't not know that it's Kermit the Frog if you grew up in that era. And the fact that he's singing it, so it's a Muppet singing it, your imagination. Yeah, and like listening to those lyrics about you're okay with the fact there's a Muppet singing about imagination and dreaming and kids doing that. And I like what you said, Dan, about like as we grow older, you kind of lose that. And listening to this, you should try to get that back, to keep dreaming, to keep looking for the rainbow connection. So thank you for putting it on there.
Now, Dan, you said this song is great. I'm going to have to, I normally don't argue with people on this show, but I'm going to have to argue with you here. This song is not great. It's the greatest song ever written. This is actually my favorite song of all time. I've talked about it several times in all of these episodes. I danced with my mom to this song when I was 3 years old, and I danced with my mom to this song at my wedding for my mother-son dance. This song means more to me than any other song on the planet, and I really expanded upon those stories in other episodes. So instead of doing that again, I'm going to bring some new information to the table tonight about Rainbow Connection, because believe it or not, no matter how many times I've talked about this song, I've never mentioned the fact that Rainbow Connection was a top 40 hit for Kermit the Frog, reaching number 25 on the Billboard US Hot 100, and it charted even higher in Australia, reaching number 14. This song is the greatest song ever. What a way to close out Side A, mixtapers. That is Side A of the ultimate nostalgia mixtape, which consists of My Chemical Romance, Welcome to the Black Parade, The Killers, When You Were Young, Nickelback's Photograph, Blink-182's Parking Lot, Macklemore featuring Kesha, Good Old Days, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince's Summertime, Dionne Warwick's That's What Friends Are For, Ed Sheeran's Castle on the Hill, Yellow Card's Ocean Avenue, and Kermit the Frog's Rainbow Connection. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Now, Manny, since Dan kicked off Side A, I'm passing the mic to you to keep our nostalgic vibes going for Side B. What song are you starting off with?
I'm going with Glory Days by Bruce Springsteen. This song always got to me. It's literally about a song about being at a bar. There's a guy who uses Superstar, and he lives like, so this could be almost a sad song, like almost like a depressing song, but also like great song, because it's like the guy's living through his glory days. Like they were superstars in high school. And now the life's just gotten to them, and like they're just sitting there drinking and thinking about the glory days to make them feel better. So it could look bad, but like this whole show is about songs about making us feel great about the glory days, the good old days, whatever you want to call it. And it's such a great song. Like the way it's written, the way Bruce sings it. It's just, I, again, know some of these people. I've caught myself living in the glory days. You know, when I go to watch a wrestling tournament now with all the alumni, and then we end up at the bar afterwards, and we're all just talking about all the great times that we had at tournaments and like all the championships we won. And it was feeling great. Like we're hugging, we're hanging out. And then like afterwards, you're like, oh yeah, but now like reality. So like everyone does this. And that's why the song is so great.
Yeah, I mean, it's Bruce Springsteen. I mean, as soon as you hear, it's like, yeah, like you're like, it pulls you into that nostalgic space that Springsteen has been cultivating and creating his entire career. It's almost like he's built a separate universe of nostalgia that as soon as his voice starts, you get like sucked into, right? And remember, I know that like him and Tom Waits are coming up at the same time. So when you put on Tom Waits, it's nostalgic, but it's also like a little scarier. In my opinion, I love Tom Waits, but sometimes it's like, oh boy, behind this door, I don't know what Vaudevillian craziness is going to happen. But with Springsteen, it's this constant group hugs. I feel like it's like group hugs, lots of high fives. And also it makes me think of this is the thing when Manny and I grew up together. So like living in Mineola and Wilson Park, there was a bar of memories, and like Springsteen was constantly sung. This song was karaokeed by the same guy all the time, every week. And everyone was like, yeah. I was like, we sang this last week. But I think like, it didn't matter. It was just that feeling. And so it was great listening to it. I mean, it's Springsteen. It was amazing.
Being a New Jersey musician, I think I'm contractually obligated by the state of New Jersey. I think it's in like the bylaws of the state constitution that if you're playing a gig, you have to play at least one song from the boss. I'm not 100% sure. I have to reread that again, but from 1984's Born in the USA, the song reached number 5 on the Billboard US Hot 100 and also hit number 17 on the UK singles chart and Canada's top singles chart, as well as number 29 in Australia. And if you're a fellow Bruce Springsteen fan, be sure to check out episode 53, the Ultimate Bruce Springsteen playlist, featuring fellow Pantheon Podcast Network mate Jesse Jackson, host of Set Lusting Bruce. We may or may not talk about Glory Days on this episode. I don't want to spoil it, but we've got something in there for both diehards and casual fans alike. Manny, you did talk about the fact that, yes, the song is happy, but in true Bruce fashion, you've got everybody singing along with this happy song. But when you really dive into the lyrics, we just sit around talking about the old times. She said when she feels like crying, she starts laughing, thinking about glory days. There's a little bit of a melancholiness to it. It's happy and sad at the same time. And he was really able to teeter that line. And I think what I'm going to do is tap right into that feeling. And I'm going to keep us in that same musical style as well. And I'm going to go with my favorite musical artist of all time, since Dan brought up my favorite song of all time. I think it's only fitting to bring up some Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers here off of 1979's Damn the Torpedoes. I'm going to follow up Glory Days with Even the Losers. 2 cars parked on the overpass. Rocks hit the water like broken glass. I should have known right then it was too good to last. God, it's such a drag when you live in the past. I feel like that taps into the melancholy part of nostalgia, similar to Glory Days. You're looking back at the past with love, but also a little bit of sadness. And strangely enough, while this song is considered an absolute classic in the Tom Petty catalog, it was never released as a single, except for in Australia. I have no idea why. Australia's getting it all right, but was not released in the US as a single. However, it made Tom Petty's 1993 Greatest Hits album. It's a concert staple through all of the decades. It made the live anthology. Rolling Stone ranks this as Tom Petty's 19th best song. And the Washington Post has it in their top 10 Tom Petty tracks of all time. God, I got to whittle down Tom Petty's catalog pretty soon for an upcoming Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers episode. Oh. I don't know how the holy hell I'm going to do it, but Even the Losers, for somebody who grew up sometimes kind of doubting himself growing up, like we talked about with the Macklemore song, this song really speaks to me. Even the losers do get lucky sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that line, this feels like a lot of the experiences that I had like in middle school and high school, especially middle school going into high school, because I moved to Wilson Park, Mineola, right in the middle of 5th grade. And then it was like, it was over. And then I was in middle school, but everyone had already solidified their friends. So I was still trying to figure it all out. But I think the thing too here is that you doubt yourself so much. And I've dealt with this my whole life and thinking I'm never going to have the things I have or meet the people, like have love in my life or have success or anything. And then you finally figure like all that doubting was for nothing. The other thing is that melancholy stuff that you're talking about too, with nostalgia, that is really, I think, important too, because with nostalgia, there is that trap of being stuck there, because that happens. And that is also the scary part too here, because like you could go to that part about like sitting on the roof and all those things, and that's cool. Like that's, oh, you remember we used to do that? But it's like, yeah, but a lot of people live there still and so live in that memory, and you can't live in that memory. Like that's the trap, I feel like, of nostalgia, the trapping of it. But yeah, love this song, love it.
I mean, you guys said a lot. You just pretty much said it all. I'm just gonna. I guess I'll talk about the love story of it. I mean, he obviously was talking about that moment of like being together with this person meant so much, and then like just like that, he might think about the moments all the time, and just like that, she forgot, and that is like, whoa, like where then you think about your perception of life and your perception of everything, and then like what you may think was like what you said, Dan, you get trapped in living in this like crazy experience, and this moment meant so much, and but yet somebody else is just moving on, or they didn't take it as much. So that's gotta hurt when you realize that, and you're like, oh, I was lucky. It was such a great time. How do you forget that quickly? How did you forget me? That's like a weird thought. It is melancholy. Like it feels so great. I felt great, but at the same time, like that sucks, like, because I didn't get it back. So yeah, this was a great choice. It's still a great song. And it's funny that we love, I always say, like, you ever, like, when you're depressed, you listen to depressing songs to make you feel better. Like, it's weird that humans do this. Like that, a lot of these songs are very melancholy that we've had on. And yet we love listening to them. We feel good even after sometimes, there are times we feel a little bit worse depending, but it's just, that's what's so great about these songs, I guess. And that's why they did so well. And they still are songs that we listen to.
All right, Dan, you got to follow up Bruce and Tom Petty. Where do we go from here?
This song, okay, I'm just gonna get right into it. It's Right Field by Peter, Paul, and Mary. And I just want to read the opening lyrics. Like, Saturday summers when I was a kid, we'd run to the schoolyard, and here's what we did. We'd pick out captains, we'd choose up the teams. I was always a measure of my self-esteem. And then, the whole story of playing right field and being, it's okay to be awkward. It's okay to be this. I love this song. I love baseball songs. I love baseball movies. I think in terms of Americana, it is one of the most nostalgic pieces of culture that we have, is the game of baseball. As soon as the Field of Dreams starts, I'm crying from beginning to end. As soon as this song is on, I was crying, and I was trying to explain why I chose this to someone, and I couldn't get through explaining it. So I had to practice, so like it wouldn't happen on here. But I played baseball. I played Little League. This was my story. I played right field. I played, the outfield. I wasn't great at all. I wasn't good, but baseball is such an American nostalgia cultural piece that I was like, it has to go on here. Plus, if you had the VHS tape of the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, the first thing that came on before that movie was a Pizza Hut commercial with this song and the last verse on it. And I was just like, holy crap, that's what this is. And I love this song. Super nostalgic.
Dan keeps taking all my bangers of like saying what I want to say. Dan, I knew you were going to put this on. I know how much you love baseball. We both went to Field of Dreams together. I don't really love this song. I love the way it makes you feel. The one thing about this is very poetic, and I know that's why you love it so much. And that scene is all I can remember is like the little kid, and he's like, he raises his arm and the ball comes to his glove. And I smiled just for that. But it isn't I'm not listening to the song ever. So, but I appreciate you putting it on for you.
Right field, it's easy, you could be awkward and you could be slow. That's why I'm here in right field, just watching the dandelions grow. From 1986's No Walk to Freedom. The song was not a single, it didn't chart, but obviously it charts in Dan's heart. And anyone that played sports can listen to this song and understand. If you played baseball, at least in Little League, where I grew up, every player got a chance to kind of play every position. And before I found my place in Little League as catcher, I spent a lot of time watching the grass grow in the outfield because at the younger ages, the ball never got hit out there. So you were just literally standing there, just watching time pass. The part of this song I love is the whistle for the solo, which is kind of the slight interpolation of Take Me Out to the Ball Game, but not exactly. It's a ahem, nice play on their part to put that into the song. And with that, Manny, we're back to you for track 4.
All right. This one, I'm going to one of my favorite artists, especially to go cross country with. If you're going cross country, grab yourself some Otis Redding and put him on repeat. I'm going Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, Wasting Time. Again, another song that I didn't grow up during Otis's time. I didn't necessarily have a dock on the bay, but there are so many times that I can remember going with friends to the Roslyn Duck Pond with my wife before we were really dating, and going and just like sitting there and staring at body of water and just wasting time. Sometimes not even talking, but saying everything. So I think this song is perfect. I think it's such a relaxing song and brings you in so many different avenues of the universe while listening to it.
I mean, Otis Redding is the soundtrack basically to our cross country trip. I mean, like, it is the music we listen to the most on top of Jadakiss for some reason.
Yeah, which is
so funny.
So weird.
So weird. Hip hop. It was so weird. It was a very weird cross country trip, Brian. But like, I think like this song too brings me back to, I was first introduced to the song by my dad, but also in a way, my mom, who would make fun of this song for some reason, because my dad, like, she didn't really like this song, so she would make fun of this song. But I love this song, and it makes me think of exactly what Manny's saying, that idea of reminiscing, reflecting, and thinking, but also sometimes in a group, like you do that, where it's like either in a duck pond or the beach or on our cross country trip, like moments of silence, like in a way with a group of people. And I felt like that's what this is. And it's that nostalgia for those moments together. I love this song and pretty much every Otis Redding song.
Looks like nothing's going to change. Everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. I've been playing this song for well over a decade with Colburn and Company. Every time we start the opening, people just stop what they're doing and they kind of just get sucked into the song. It's so hypnotic. It just pulls you in. And in 1968, it became the first posthumous song to reach #1 on the Billboard US Hot 100 chart. It also hit #7 on the Canada RPM Top Singles chart and #3 on the UK Singles chart, among others. This song was recorded 3 days before Otis Redding tragically died in a plane crash. And to think what might have come from him beyond this song, because this song is an all-time classic, an all-time great, lyrically just grabs you. And again, it's hypnotic. It pulls you in and just demands and commands your attention.
Yeah.
And I love the song. I'm kind of curious to see how that bounces back and forth with Jadakiss, but I'll have to put that on when we're done recording here and see what that sounds like. I'll put myself in Dan and Manny's shoes for a little bit.
You have to know Dave to understand that it's okay.
You have to know Dave.
I think what I'm going to do to follow that up is do a little bit of a pivot here, and I'm going to give another shout out to Patreon mixtaper Brandon from Virginia, because he chimed in with this one. And when you chime in with another one of my favorite bands of all time, I'm going to run with it. And I'm definitely going to run with Blues Travelers Back in the Day from 2001's Bridge. Please check out episode 41, the Ultimate Blues Traveler playlist featuring the band's bassist Tad Kinchla. We dive deep into the band's catalog and touch on tunes from all spectrums of their catalog. Now, lyrically, John Popper nails this one for me. I close my eyes and feel like it was back in the day, but those times have long been through. The dying of the light is gone, but it's back in the day. like a wish that comes half true. John, if you're listening and I can ever get you on this show, I don't want to talk about the music. I just want to dive into some lyrical discussions with you. John Popper and Adam Duritz from the Counting Crows are two 90s musicians that I would love to just talk lyrics with for a long time. And this song, for some reason, if you know the story behind the Bridge album and the passing of the band's original bass player, Bobby Sheehan, in 1999, and then how the band kind of went through the changing and brought in Chan's brother Tad into the band and Ben Wilson on keys. This was a new era for Blues Traveler. This is Blues Traveler 2.0, and this was the first song of that era. And when you think about the lyrics, there's, again, a melancholy touch to it. You're looking back at the past, but you're also kind of looking towards the future of what the future might hold. And damn, I love this song so much.
Yeah, these lyrics, I'm not the biggest Blues Traveler fan, but like the lyrical aspects to their songs and the depth of the storytelling is just it's undeniable. And this song, now that I live in LA and I've been living here for about 8 years now. And when I go back home for a holiday or something, or back to my parents' house, this is like how I feel. It's weird. Like, you remember the place that you used to live exactly the way you left it, but it's not like that. And it will never, nothing will ever be like that. So things have changed. People are changing. Businesses are gone. But at the same time, it's weird because you call it "I'm coming home," but you're actually just going to a place that's exactly what is this idea of home. And nostalgia kind of can play on your memory like that, because there's a lot of things that you go past and it's like, oh, that used to be this, or that used to be that, and this is where we used to hang out. Like that whole line, there was a time when it was easy to find a hangout that you knew was yours. Manny and I had, like, we could remember several places like that don't exist like that anymore, and it's really interesting. It gave me a lot to think about in terms of this idea of home. But I was yeah, it's melancholy but beautifully told, like even just reading it as a story in a way.
Yeah, when my wife and I go back to visit the church we got married in, they remodeled the church, and the stairs that we came down with my family and friends all standing on it, that's now a wall, and the entrance is on the other side. So every time I hear this song, I kind of turn to my wife and I say, it's like the stairs that aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm also not that much a Blues Traveler fan. I guess what I'm going to bring to this one is I really enjoyed how he sings it. Back in the day, just like the tone of the song, the sound of this of the Blues Traveler is, it's just like, for some reason I'm it's fun. Like I'm like, oh, and yet it's talking about all these things that can be melancholy, but like just like the groove is what I enjoyed about this song.
There's definitely something that they bring to a lot of their tracks is a groove, especially in Blues Traveler 2.0. And yeah, you nailed it on that one. But Dan, we have the second half of side B. Where do we go from here for track 6?
Yeah, I mean, this song has been a song that I listen to like multiple times a week. The Story by Brandy Carlisle. And I love this song. Her voice and I mean, just musically unbelievable. And produced by T-Bone Burnett. I mean, this is a killer song. But right away in the first verse, like when I think of nostalgia, I do think about reflection, right? And like thinking on life, not like trying to remember, but reflecting, which is like a little different. It's like this idea that all these lines across my face tell you the story of who I am. So many stories where I've been, but also like, it's not even just that, because that's part of it, but that there's a person in your life that knows those stories, knows those lines, and like you share them together in some way. And like, I listen to this song and this song makes me cry. Like I did a prompt with my students in class being like, what's your go-to cry song? And at the moment of that prompt, this was it. And like, it is unbelievable. But yeah, I love this song. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Again, Dan's taking all my rights. Can I go first, Nick? No. Brandy's phenomenal. One of my wife's favorites. So this gets played on a lot. And me and my wife were together we dated for a very long time. We knew each other since high school. This comes on and it's like the lyric "I was made for you" was is like gut wrenching and amazing at the same time, because we went through ups and downs. Not to get so like relationship in this, but we made it through, and this song touches a long way. And her voice is just so good with this song. This song was made for her, I mean, obviously, but I don't even want the song to be covered. I just want her to keep singing it all the time. So like, just because like her soul in this song, in a lot of her songs, but especially this one, that definitely gets you. It is definitely get some tears going.
Yeah, Dan, and you even stripped, as you've noticed, I've been pulling a line of lyrics out of every song tonight to kind of highlight where it sits with me. You pulled the exact line. So many stories of where I've been and how I got to where I am. And then Manny, to bounce off the cover song thing, yes, I agree. I think Brandy's is the definitive version, but country loves this song. Leanne Rimes covered it on her Remnants album. And Dolly Parton covered it on the Cover Stories compilation, which is the entire album being covered by a bunch of different artists, including Pearl Jam, the Indigo Girls, Old Crow Medicine Show, and Adele, among others. This song reached number 75 on the Billboard US Hot 100 and hit number 44 in Australia, number 16 in Switzerland, number 3 in Norway, and number 1 in Portugal. So Portugal got it right. Yeah, I don't know how the hell it only hit number 75 in the
Portuguese
US.
are amazing. That's why.
This song is absolutely incredible. And Brandi Carlile, there's a reason why when she performs on award shows, people stop dead in their tracks. Brandi Carlile's so underrated musically. She is one of the most gifted, storytellers of the modern musical era. And I'm so glad you chose this song. So with that, Manny, track 7.
We're going. Good Riddance, Time of Your Life, Green Day. There wasn't a graduation party you can go to. I think it's it was our song, right? Class of 2000 song or something.
Was it?
I think so. The best part of this song to me is the beginning, when like it strums, it stops, strum, stop, and then get into it. Like that pause every time. I don't know. I love it. Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Like, just like thinking about where am I going to go now, looking into the future, also thinking about the past. What choices do I have to make? And it just, it brings me back to that era. And even when we were there, that would even bring me back further to think about what I did to get to where I was and where I'm going. So this song is just great. It always makes me feel good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have such a weird relationship with Green Day in terms of their music. Like it's like a roller coaster for me, where like there's moments where I'm like, "Oh, you," and then there are parts where I'm like, "Yes." And Manny and I saw Green Day on a whim once, like, and we were looking around, being like, "We are now the oldest people at the concert."
Yeah.
But this is a great song. It is. It's a great song, and it marks a time. It's like, Brian, you were talking, one of the mixtapers talked about that song, the Weezer song, Memories.
Yes.
And I feel like the same way with that song, with this song. It's one of those songs that like lets you reflect as you're, it's weird, like in this abstract way, move, like walking forward, like away from whatever it is. Like you're sitting there, it was a time in my life, but it's also this idea of like good riddance because we're moving forward in a way. That's how I always saw it. It's like, I have to let go. I can't be there. And nostalgia is like this weird thing where it's like, you have to let go of it. You can visit, but you can't always be there. And I feel like that's the thing here that I feel like in terms of Green Day, it says. And funny thing, I saw Billy Joe Armstrong perform in one of the smallest venues ever in New York, the Bowery Ballroom, with singer-songwriter Jesse Malin. And it was really crazy to see him in like a room full of like 40 people. You know, it's just like, oh my God. Yeah. So it was really, really brought all sorts of memories back.
Well, from 1997's Nimrod, Manny, you stole my lyrical line that I pulled for this one. Reached number 2 on the Billboard US Alternative Airplay chart, number 11 on the UK Singles chart, number 5 on the Canada Top Singles chart, and number 44 on the Australia ARIA charts. This song was an interesting point in Green Day's career because there was a lot of Green Day fans that were like, the audacity! An acoustic ballad. How dare they? Like people were pissed when this song came out. And when I first heard it, I kind of thought to myself, and if I ever got a chance to interview anyone from Green Day or Billy Joe, I'd love that opportunity. I would actually ask, was there ever a point where this song was written to be a fast punk song? Or was it always meant to be acoustic? Because in my brain, before Nimrod, there wasn't a lot of that ballady part of Green Day. But then after Nimrod, you get the Warning album that introduced a lot more acoustical elements into it. So I wonder, this was a turning point in the band, literally and figuratively. But for me, this song always brings a tear to my eye and chokes me up, because when my oldest graduated preschool, they sang this song or screamed it, however you want to call it. And every time I hear it, it chokes me. I literally am getting a lump in my throat now, because I just hear them, and the whole time she sang it, she just looked me right in the eyes and sang it to me. And it was so beautiful. And when she graduates high school, I'm going to embarrass the shit out of her and play this video at her graduation party for high school and college, and probably when she gets married. And I'll never forget it. And I'm sorry, I love Green Day. They're one of my favorite bands ever, but that'll forever be my favorite performance of Good Riddance Time of Your Life. But now, getting let me wipe my eyes here for a minute, who's ever chopping onions in the room, and move on to the next song. If you were to call a Good Riddance one of those moments where people would hold up their lighters in the air at a punk concert, or their cell phones for the younger kids, I'm going to hold up lighters for our generation and be nostalgic because we haven't gotten any power ballads in this mix.
Oh, yeah.
And I definitely hold a place just for power ballads alone. Episodes 16 and 38 are completely dedicated to 80s and some 90s power ballads that we get nostalgic for. However, when you wake up to the sound of falling rain, you know exactly what song I'm talking about. Remember Yesterday, Walking Hand in Hand, Love Letters in the Sand from 1989 Skid Row, I Remember You. Reached number 6 on the Billboard US Hot 100, number 36 on the UK Singles Chart, number 14 on the Canada Top Singles Chart, and hit number 12 in Australia. I love my punk covers, being we were just talking about Green Day. The Ataris, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention their amazing cover of I Remember You, where they even sample some parts of Sebastian Bach's original vocals and mix it in. Totally awesome cover. I mean, I know there's so much drama with Skid Row now. You'll probably never see that reunion, but hell, Oasis is doing it. This song, it's probably a top 5 all-time power ballad for me. So Skid Row's I Remember You.
Okay, I love this song. I love this song. It is, again, like, you're right. There was a moment in time of like there's this very specific 80s sound, and this was on all the time, especially on MTV, like this video and this song, VH1, MTV. So like, it wasn't even just you heard it, you saw it. It was on TV when they were playing this, even though it came out in 89, though this was all coming out, right? But the thing is this, I love Sebastian Bach. And the thing I will always remember Sebastian Bach from now on as well, is his part that he played, his recurring character in Gilmore Girls, because he was on that show, not just one episode, he was on a lot. He was in a band in that show with these other kids, the main characters, and they had a band together, and Sebastian Bach was on the show for many, many episodes. But man, this song, the 80s sound that makes that nostalgic 80s sound, is like this song, Ozzy, I'm Coming Home, is like that kind of same type of feeling. But like, it was that time where like ballads also in a way also would get fans angry. I think like at that time too, like true metal fans were like getting, kind of angry, but there were
the audacity. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's going to be an episode of the Nostalgia Test coming out about the Black Album, and we talk all about that album for quite a bit. But yeah, I love this song. It brings you back to that moment. There's nothing I don't remember. For some reason, it brings me back to my cousins and hanging out with them, and like Skid Row. It's Skid Row. It's Sebastian Bach. There's nothing you can say.
Whew. We spent the summer with the top rolled down. Wish ever after would be like this. You said I love you without a sound. That right there brings me back to, like I said, on the dock of the bay, all the times when you're not talking, you're with that young love, and you didn't have to say anything and you just knew. This song is awesome. I love it. It's a great ballad. I got nothing more to say than that.
All right, we each got one song left. We're up to track 9 because we go to track 11 because I have to get one in to make it an even 7 for each of us. Dan, what do you got for your final song pick of the night?
Look, I went back and forth on everything on this list, and I had a lot of songs on this list, and I was like, had this particular song, I was like, it's got to be on there no matter what. And it's Juicy by the Notorious B.I.G. At this point, in my opinion, you could play this song anywhere, in any event, at any moment. And this is the type of song that crosses all sorts of lines of generation, culture, everything, and brings people together. People are going to dance. People are going to get hyped up. People are going to remember an amazing point in hip hop, but also in music, 94. And we just had someone on about 90 cinema who said 1994 was one of the most important times in cinema in the 90s. And I would say in hip hop, right around this point was so amazing that it will never be repeated again. But this song and just the lyric, I mean, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, as soon as you hear that, everyone's like, yup. But I mean, we can't say the intro on this show, but when you hear the intro to this before the rapping even starts, you're like, yep, we're here. I'm there. Break out my baggy pants and I'm ready to go. This is a super nostalgic song, and I love it. Love it to this day.
Great choice, Dan. Great choice. I just love it. That obviously one of the better storyteller rap artists of our time. I didn't grow up making it that big like he did, but even when you're hearing him tell the story about his time growing up, how he used to eat sardines for dinner, now he's, drinking champagne. He's now being interviewed with Robin Leach. So it's like he had a dream, didn't even realize that it was going to blow up like it did. Unfortunately, he's no longer, but this almost is just like another summertime vibe. Obviously, when this was on all the time. Such a, again, you're either dancing, you're hanging out, you're bobbing your head, you're remembering great times. Who doesn't like this song? If you don't like it, I don't understand why you even listen to music then.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine, Salt and Pepper, and Heavy D up in the limousine from 1994's Ready to Die. Reached number 27 on the Billboard US Hot 100 and number 72 on the UK singles chart. This is my senior year in high school. Every single time we won a football game, we would go back into the locker room, and I was the one, believe it or not, big shocker here, with the boombox wedged up above my football locker, and I was the one that controlled the music, hit play on the tape deck. That line started, and we started celebrating the victory. I mean, God. And then Saturday nights, there was this 18 and under dance club we used to go to called Bam Bam's in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. This song always played there. This was just part of my senior year. So many amazing memories. As soon as I hear that opening line, I'm back in 1994.
Yeah.
Manny, your last song pick of the night.
Okay. This was brought up, obviously, because we did a Billy Joel. So it's Billy Joel Scene from an Italian Restaurant.
Nice.
With Glory Days in this side. I feel like it has almost the same vibe where, Brenda and Eddie with the Popular Steadies and the King and the Queen of the Prom. Those were their glory days. And then goes into a whole thing of where they're no longer having glory days, but you are. And it's just such a great song to me. I always rock out to it. And I love that it goes from you're in an Italian restaurant, having a good time, rocking out, and then you go back to being slow. There's nothing wrong with this song. It's an amazing time. Nostalgic all the way. Because you always knew a Brenda and Eddie. And you always thought they would always find a way to get by.
Okay. So, Brian, the way you said, if you're in a band in New Jersey, it's by law that you have to play a Bruce Springsteen song. I knew I didn't have to pick a Billy Joel song because Manny was here, and I'm like, one of us is gonna do it. Because living on Long Island, if you're making a list of any sort, I don't even care what it is. Billy Joel's coming up at some point, and it wasn't even a surprise. It's like absolutely, and it's funny because this song is so it's both so New York, but also so universal. And that's what makes it nostalgic, that shared experience thing that we talked about on our episode with Georg. Because everyone, like you said, knew a Brenda and Eddie, right? But at the same time, I was listening to this song the other day and I was like, man, if they just didn't buy that waterbed with the bread that they saved up, they might have been fine. But they blew it all on that waterbed. And who buys a waterbed? Like as a kid, you're like, yeah, it's a good idea. As an adult, you're gonna be like, this bad. This whole thing's a bad idea. Love this song. Billy Joel is just the epitome of nostalgia, and and especially in New York. I mean, there's nothing to say. It's nostalgic.
Cold beer, hot lights. My sweet romantic teenage nights. From 1977's The Stranger, obviously a huge staple of Billy Joel's live shows, never released as a single. I know I've talked about cover songs a bunch of times tonight, but I do have to bring up one that I'm going to embed over on the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com. Done by the middle-aged dad jam band, which is Ken Marino and David Wayne from The State. If you remember that show on MTV, with a whole group of artists, including that one Weird Al Yankovic, who we've mentioned tonight, doing an incredible cover of Scenes from an Italian Restaurant that you definitely need to check out. Like I said, I'll embed it over at myweeklymixtape.com. And while you're there, I have to refer people back to episode 15, the Ultimate Billy Joel playlist, which featured Billy Joel band member Liberty DeVito. We talk about this song because you have to. Billy has stated that Scenes from an Italian Restaurant was influenced by side 2 of the Beatles' Abbey Road. So that makes my last pick of the night tonight very easy. Dan, you already picked my favorite song of all time. I got to talk about my favorite artist of all time in Tom Petty. While it's not from Abbey Road, we have to talk about a band that is a lot of people's favorites. And what better way to close out than a song from 1965's Help if you're in the UK, and 1966's Yesterday and Today if you're here in the US. Let's go with Yesterday. I've talked about cover songs several times tonight over this episode. This song is one of the most covered songs in the history of recorded music, with over 2,200 versions and counting. And I'm now going to go through them one by one. No, I'm kidding. The song reached number 1 on the Billboard US Hot 100, as well as top in the charts in Sweden, Belgium, Norway, Finland, and the Netherlands. Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. With such a melancholy close, it's a kind of a beautiful and powerful ending to the mixtape tonight. And I mean, there's a lot of people out there that'll say the Beatles are the cherry on top of a nostalgia mixtape.
It's such a staple song, and also like it's a staple in my house in terms of like my mom was a huge Beatles fan, so like I heard these songs and I was in listening to it, like it brings me back to all those moments that I heard the song, but also that it is a song that people are, whether you're a rock and roll fan or not, the Beatles transcend those spaces. So like that's the thing about nostalgia, is that this song transcends all those things to create that shared experience between people of a yesterday. We all have that. And so like this song is just perfect way to end it as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, this song's perfectly melancholy. It's one of those ones that you should feel really sad about, but you feel good while listening to it. I love the suddenly I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Like how fast things can go. And I don't know about you guys, but lately, after 40, I just feel like things that like, summers are going a lot quicker. Like time is just like so much quicker than it used to be. And this song like defines all that. So yeah, this is a perfect choice.
And that, Mixtapers, concludes Side B of the Ultimate Nostalgia Mixtape, which consists of Bruce Springsteen's Glory Days, Tom Petty's Even the Losers, Peter, Paul, and Mary's Right Field, Otis Redding's Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, Blues Travelers Back in the Day, Brandy Carlisle's The Story, Green Day's Good Riddance, Time of Your Life, Skid Row's I Remember You, The Notorious B.I.G.'s Juicy, Billy Joel's Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, and The Beatles' Yesterday. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Well, Dan and Manny, we have talked a lot about nostalgia this evening. Why don't you let listeners know where they can find out if they want even more of a nostalgia fix over at the Nostalgia Test?
Yeah. First of all, Brian, thank you for having us. This was such a blast. We had a great episode with Brian back in 2021, Billy Joel's Greatest Hits episode number 53. But if you love nostalgia and you love hanging out with your best friends in a basement somewhere in a garage late into the night, talking nonsense about movies and music and everything.
And interrupting each other.
Yeah, and interrupting each other. You'll love the Nostalgia Test podcast. You can find us at thenostalgiatest.com. We are like 125 episodes in, and right now we're also interviewing scholars from all over the world. The creator of Tickle Me Elmo is on. The creator of Qbert was on at one point talking about how they created Qbert. So we're doing professionals, scholars. We have mini episodes coming up. Nostalgia Test now. We are now covering the gauntlet of nostalgia. So
we're currently doing 90s.
Yeah.
We're putting a bunch of 90s stuff to the test. Music, movies, TV shows, commercials, just because we're obsessed with that era right now. Yeah, last year was like 80s, but doing the 90s. So wherever you get your podcast, follow the Nostalgia Test. Follow us.
Thank you so much, Brian, too, for having us on. It was an honor. It was great.
Before you go, can I ask you a question as if you were on our show?
Sure.
Do you like Rocky, by the way, all the Rockies?
Sure, of course.
Okay. Can you give us your favorite to your least favorite, 1 through 6?
Sure.
Rank.
Rocky 4, Rocky Balboa.
Wow.
Rocky 1, 3, 2, and 5.
All right. Wow, a 4-6. A 4-6-1, baby.
A 4-6-1 is new, but that's respectable. I love it.
Yes.
Because 2 and 5 definitely deserve to be in the back end of that list.
2 doesn't exist without 1. Get out of here.
Well, gentlemen, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining me on My Weekly Mixtape.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Remember, you can find My Weekly Mixtape on almost all the social media haunts at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. There you can enjoy ad-free episodes of the show, chime in on future topics, become a future guest, and so much more. That's all for this week. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.